there aren't any pictures of the book.
Oh, because it's not a picture book. All right, so we're getting ready for chapter 14 of Shiloh. Let's review what's been going on lately. We know that while Marty was keeping Shiloh hidden, a secret, a German Shepherd hopped in and tore poor Shiloh up really, really bad. They had to rush him to the doctor. The German Shepherd almost killed him, but he healed up, got his ear kind of ripped, and he got his leg hurt, so he's still limping around. And then so they got Shiloh at their house as he's healing up. And of course, sooner or later, Judd finds out and he comes over and he's pretty mad. Like, man, you took my dog. You had him a whole week. Didn't even tell me. And then I find out he's been torn up. And then basically they say, Judd, mom's like, Judd, can we buy him from you? Marty really likes this dog. And Judd says, nope, dog's not for sale. And then he says, you can keep him because it's your fault he got torn up. You can keep him and pay for his care. But in 3 days, I want him back.
Are you making a video?
Kids got to see it. So, yeah, I am.
Oh, okay.
For there. So that's where we're at right now. We're at 3 days where he says, you got to bring him over. And Marty said, I can't think of anything else to do. So I'm just going to go over to Judd's house and say, I'm not giving him back. So he's gotten desperate. He can't think of anything else to do. He's just like, I'm just going to tell him I'm not giving him back. But when he was heading over to Judd's early that morning, what happened? Somebody tell us what happened early that morning. Somebody chime in quickly.
Judd had shotted deer.
Right. As he's over on his way to Judd's, he finds Judd shooting a deer. And what's important about that? People shoot deer all the time as hunters. Why is this?
And it's not season.
He shot it out of season, like, illegally. So be thinking about what this could lead to, people. All right? So here we go. Hopefully you guys are thinking. When I ask you guys what you're thinking, nobody says anything. People to be thinking. Because if you don't think about what you're reading, then you're not really reading it when you think about it. All right. Chapter 14. Let me zoom in a little bit. So I will read the last couple of paragraphs from chapter 13 just to lead into this. I'm just about to step out into the meadow when crack, it's the sound of a rifle. It splits the air and echoes back against the hills. The doe takes out across the meadow, heading for the woods. Its front legs rear up, then its back legs as it leaps. Its tail a flash of white. Crack! The rifle sounds again, and this time the deer goes down. I can't move. One part of me wants to go to the deer. The other part knows that somebody's out here with a rifle shooting deer out of season. And before I can decide whether to go on or to turn back, out of the woods on the other side steps Judd Travers, rifle in hand. All right, so let's see what happens. He's wearing this army camouflage shirt, a brown cap, and the weirdest grin that could fit on a human face. Whoo-wee, he says, holding the rifle up with one hand as he plows through the weeds. I got her, whoo-wee. I know he wasn't out shooting rabbits and happened to get a doe instead because he doesn't have his hounds with him. Judd Travers had gone out that morning with the clear intention of getting himself a deer. I also know that if the game warden finds out about it, Judd's in big trouble because the deer he shot out of season wasn't even a buck. Remember, a buck is a male deer, and he shot a doe, a female deer, so that's an even bigger no-no. He slogs over through waist-high weeds to where the doe lays. Bending over, he looks at her, walks around her a little piece, and then says, whoo-wee, again, soft-like. That's when I come out of the woods. He's got his back to me now, his hands on the doe's front legs, trying to see can he pull her himself. Drags her a little way and stops, and when he looks up again, I'm right beside him. He whirls around. Where'd you come from? He says. Was on my way over to see you, I tell him. And for the first time standing next to Judd Travers, I feel taller than I really am. He looks at me a moment like he don't know if he's glad I'm there or not. Then I guess he figures me being there, only a kid, don't matter. Look what I got, he says. Found her eating at my garden this morning, and I chased her over here. That's a lie, I say. I was back in the woods watching her eat. She was coming down from the hills the other way. You went out deer hunting for anything you could get. Well, supposing I did, says Judd Travers, and he hates me worse than snot. Deer ain't in season, that's what, I answer. There's $200 fine for killing a doe. Judd Travers is staring at me like he's about to crack me across the mouth. The way we're raised around here, children don't talk back to grown folks. Don't hardly talk much at all, in fact. Learn to listen, keep your mouth shut. Let the grown folks do the talking. And here I am shooting off my mouth at 5:30 in the morning to a man holding a rifle. Am I crazy or what? Not unless the game warden finds out there's not, Judd says. And who's going to tell him? You? All right, everybody think about this for a second. All at once, I realize I got Judd Travers right where I want him. Think, what might Marty have planned here? Anyone ever heard the word blackmail before? Has anyone ever turned that before? Blackmail? See if you know what I'm talking about here. One way you look at it, it's my duty to report a killed doe. The way folks up here look at it, though, that's snitching. And if I could tell, but bargain not to, it's something else again. It's blackmail. But like I said, I had got to the place I'd do most anything to save Shiloh. Yeah, I say, my heart pounding like crazy. I'll tell. There's a free number to call. There is too. It's on Dad's hunting regulation papers. Boy, I sure didn't know I was going to step into all this when I came up here this morning. Now Judd's looking at me good, eyes narrowed down to little slits. Your pa put you up to this? No, this is me talking. Well, ain't you something now? And who's to believe you? I'll get the game warden up here. I'll show him the spot the doe was hit, the blood. And when he finds the deer at your place, he'll believe me. The words are coming out quicker than I could think almost. I'll tell him he was eating my garden. And I'll say different. The new game warden won't make any allowance even if the deer was eating your garden. You just don't shoot deer out of season, no way, especially a doe. Now Judd's really angry, and his words come at me like bees. What you trying to do, boy? Start up trouble? You think I can't put you in your place mighty quick? So what are you going to do, I ask. Shoot me? Travis is so surprised his jaw drops. But I'm cooking now. Nothing could stop me. Braver than I ever been in my life. Gonna shoot me like that dog I found up here 6 months back with a bullet in his head? Travers stares some more. I know whose bullet that was, Judd, and I told Dad, and if folks find me up here with a bullet in me, Dad'll know whose bullet that is too. I can't hardly believe the words that's coming out of my mouth. Been scared most of my life of Judd Travers, and here I am, half his size, talking like a grown person. It's because I know Shiloh's still got a chance. So what are you waiting for? Judd says finally. Go get the game warden. And when I don't move, he says, come off it, Marty. Here, you take one of those legs. I'll take another. We'll drag it to my place, and I'll give you half the meat. And don't tell me your ma won't be glad to see it. I don't want the meat. I want Shiloh. Now Judd's really surprised and whistles through his teeth. Boy, you just come up here to set me up, didn't you? Didn't have an idea in this world you was out with your rifle, I tell him. And that's one of the first truths I've told in 2 weeks. I come up here because it's Sunday, the day you said to bring your dog back. And I wanted you to know you got to fight me first to get him. Now I'm telling you, I mean to keep him. And I expect you to keep that deer without a fine. You'll make the trade. Well, there it is. He's going to keep Shiloh, and he won't tell Judd about the deer. Or he won't tell on Judd about the deer. What you guys think? He caught Judd hunting illegally, and he says, I'll keep it a secret. if I can keep Shiloh. What's Judd going to say? Christian says, yep, thumbs up. What do other people say? What's Judd going to do? Alan says, no deal. No.
I don't think so for some reason.
What do you think's Judd going to do, Lexi?
He might.
Does anyone think Judd's going to blow him away? That no way, right? I mean,
Yeah.
Judd's a bad guy, but is he gonna shoot a kid? I seriously doubt that. There's no way. So let's see what happens here. Now I'm telling you, I mean to keep him, and you expect to keep that deer without a fine, you'll make the trade. Whoa, says Travers. That's no kind of trade at all. If I hadn't got me a deer this morning, what would you have bargained with then? I didn't have an answer to that because I hadn't been thinking about a deal. Judd had already said he wouldn't sell Shiloh. Judd's eyes narrowed down even more, till it almost looks like he's asleep. I just bet you would tell the game warden too. Jesus' name I would. And you're saying if I let you keep my hunting dog, you're going to keep this deer a secret? I began to see now I'm no better than Judd Travers, willing to look the other way to get something I want. But the something is Shiloh. Yes, I will, I tell him. Yes, I will tell him. Darn it. Let me read correctly, people. Yes, I will, I tell him, not feeling all that great about it. Well, you got to do more than that, boy, because I paid $35 for that dog, and I want $40 to let him go. For the first time, I see a thin ray of hope that maybe he'll let me buy Shiloh. I'll get you the money somehow by and by, I promise. I don't want the money by and by. I want it now. And you haven't got it now. You work for me and pay it off. Oh. You make a deal with Judd Travers and you're only 11 years old, you take what you can get. But all I'm thinking is dog. You got a bargain, I tell Judd, and now my feet want to dance. My face wants to smile, but I don't care to let the delight show through. You listen here, says Judd. I'll pay you $2 an hour, and that comes to 20 hours to earn $40. And the work ain't easy. I'll do it, I say. Beginning now, says Judd, and I can tell he's getting a bit edgy that someone else might come through the field, wondering about those rifle shots and see how he got a doe. Help me get this deer to my trailer. I'm so glad to be getting Shiloh, I can hardly think straight. But I'm thinking straight enough as I help drag that doe to Judd's to know that by letting him get away with this, I'm putting other deer in danger. He killed this one out of season, he'll figure maybe he can kill some more. To save Shiloh, I'm making it harder for deer. I swallow. All I got to do, though, is think of the way he'd look at me. I ever give him back to Judd. And then I get on with my job. When we get to the trailer at last, we carry the deer around to the three-sided shed Judd's got in his backyard. First thing Judd does is bleed the doe, keep the meat from spoiling. Then he goes out and messes up the tracks with his foot, kicking up the grass where he'd matted it down and covering the trail of blood with dust. It says that he's got to bleed the doe. Basically, he's going to slit the doe open and let all the blood run out. Yeah, no, what it takes for an animal to be ready to eat, it goes through a lot of things, and it's not pretty, you know. My mom doesn't eat meat, and she hasn't eaten meat since she was a little girl when she saw a farmer slaughter a pig and kill the pig. And from that day on, she couldn't eat meat. She never has since then. Some people are like that. They can't imagine that, you know, it's so horrible. But, you know, when you got a family to feed and things like that, you know, can't exactly look at it as cruelty.
Some people they don't eat meat anymore because like when they hunt animals, some people don't eat animals and that's why they don't eat meat anymore.
Some people don't eat meat because they think it's cruel to animals, and some people don't eat meat because it's just a healthy choice, right? If you
Oh yeah, and some people don't eat meat because they don't think it's not healthy.
Yeah. So anyway, there's all kinds of points of view on the matter, right? I get home from work every day at 3, Judd says, and I want you here when I pull up. You work for me 2 hours a day, 5 days a week. I want that wood back there stacked. I want the weeds cut and the grass mowed. I want my beans picked, the corn hoed. Whatever I think of to be done, that's what you do. And I want you here starting tomorrow. I'll be here, I says. But I want it in writing that after I do 20 hours work for you, Shiloh belongs to me. Travers grunts and goes in his trailer. He comes out with a piece of grocery sack and the words beagle hunting dog to Marty Preston for 20 hours work, J. Travers. It occurs to me that suddenly that maybe after I do the work, he'll try to pay me off with one of his other dogs. Write Shiloh, I tell him. He gives me a pained look and crosses out beagle, writes Shiloh in its place, but don't spell it right. Leaves off the H at the end. I take the paper and put it in my pocket. I'll be here tomorrow, I say. And you ever tell anyone about this, dear boy, you're going to be more sorry than you open your lips. I'm sorry. And you ever tell anyone about this, dear boy, you're going to be more than sorry you open your lips. You got my word, I say, which considering all the lying I've been doing lately didn't seem like it amounted to much. It did though. I walk away from Judge's trailer in a sort of zigzag line, half expecting a bullet in my back any moment, even though I'm pretty sure he wouldn't. As soon as I'm out of sight, though, I race through the woods, heart going thumpity-thump. Can't keep the smile back no longer. Shiloh's mine. The words keep coming back again and again. He's safe. Should feel even more joyful, though. Thought once if I could get Shiloh for my own, it would be the finest day of my life. In a way it is. In a way it isn't. Could be Judd gave in because he couldn't think of nothing else at the moment to do. Said I could have Shiloh just because he needed some help with that deer. Could be that once he got rid of the evidence, he'd tell me to go ahead and get the warden, and that I wasn't to have the dog. Could even say he never wrote that on the grocery sack, that I'd wrote it myself. I don't think so, though. What worries me most is that Judd could go through with the bargain, give Shiloh to me, then someday, when Shiloh's running free in the woods by himself, Judd might put a bullet in his head just to spite me. So he's really happy that, he's going to get Shiloh, but he's also worried, you're making a deal with a real nasty character here. So tricky. So basically what's happened here in chapter 14, Marty blackmails. He blackmails Judd. Blackmailing is making a deal with somebody through a threat, is what that is. Like if you could say, I don't know, let's say one of our students in the classroom was stealing candy from my desk, and another student caught him stealing him. And he says, you give me half the candy I stole, or I'm telling the teacher on you. That's blackmail, right? It's a deal made by threatening somebody. So Marty blackmails Judd. They agree. Marty will work 20 hours for Judd to buy Shiloh. And Marty won't tell the warden on him. The game warden, right? So that's the deal. Think Judd's going to honor the deal? Think Judd will keep his word? Alan says no. Well, we got one chapter left to find out.
Probably blast a hole right through him.
We got one chapter left to find out. So,
Yes.
Maybe not because,
I see a theme here also.
Mr. Jensen, it was actually a really good trade. Like, if you don't tell anybody, I'll give you Shiloh. Says Judd doesn't hurt Shiloh anymore.
Desperate times can cause you to do extreme things, right? Desperate times can cause you to do extreme things. Marty would never think of blackmailing somebody like this if he wasn't so desperate, if he did such a selfish thing. I mean, when you think about it, Marty's breaking the law too. He saw him shoot the deer, and he should tell the warden. The guy's breaking the law. So if you see someone breaking the law and you don't tell the law about it, well, then you're kind of taking part in that crime. When you think about it. All right. Well, for the girls, Leslie, Kamani, Kamari, you can pause it, take a break. Everybody else, let's take a few minutes break. What time is it? It is 2:31. Okay, we are back. Chapter 15. Let's wrap this book up. I shouldn't be doing this, but I'm doing it anyway because I know you guys are so excited to hear the ending. This chapter is a little bit longer than the others, so get yourself comfortable. When he gets home, and let's see what he tells mom and dad. Do you think he's going to tell them the truth about what's happening, or is it just going to be another lie?
I think he's gonna
Another lie.
Another lie, probably.
No.
Do you really think they would go for this? What, Marty? You caught him shooting deer, and you helped him get away with it just to keep the dog? I don't know if they would like that, so I'm guessing it's going to be another lie. The closer I get to home, though, the bigger the grin on my face. Let me make sure I'm recording. Yes, I'm recording. The closer I get to home, though, the bigger the grin on my face. And when I burst in the kitchen, I got a smile from ear to ear. Dad's having his coffee, and Ma's in the living room listening to the Sunday morning service by Brother Jonas. She watches him every Sunday at 7, which tells me what time it is already. Where you been, says Dad, and I can tell Ma's paying attention too. You up and gone, we got to worrying. I slide into my chair almost have to push my cheeks in to keep the smile from going all the way around my head. Went to see Judd Travers, I say, still breathless, and I'm buying his dog. Ma gets up and comes to the kitchen doorway. What? Thought he wasn't selling, says Dad, looking at me hard. Yeah, you wonder how much Dad really trusts Marty these days. He wasn't, but I talked him into it. Liar! He needs help around his place, and I say if I worked hard for him for 20 hours at $2 an hour, that will pay the $40 he wants for Shiloh. That's true enough, but he's leaving something out, right? Ma's smile's getting broader by the minute. I don't believe it, she says. Shiloh's yours? Not yet, but he will be, and we don't have to take him over to Judd's. Before I can get the last word out, she's got her arms around me, squeezing the breath from my chest almost. I think Shiloh can smell Judd Travers on me. He can smell the deer's blood, too. I know by the way he sniffs my shoes. But finally, he just can't stand it no more. He's joyful I'm back, and he's licking me, welcoming me home. But Dad's still studying my face. I can't figure it, Marty. Judd seemed pretty definite about keeping that dog. What was said between you? I really didn't want to lie no more. If I tell Ma and Dad everything except about the deer, that's lying by omission. Ma says not telling the whole truth. Ma says not telling the whole truth. That's what that is. He doesn't tell everything. That's still lying. But if I tell about the deer, after promising Judd I wouldn't, then I would have lied to Judd. I'd rather lie to Judd than my folks, but I figure it this way. Dad wouldn't report Judd even if he saw him shoot a deer out of season, because that's the way it's always been around here. That don't necessarily make it right, of course, but with him feeling that way, nothing's going to change if I do tell him about Judd and the deer, and because I promised not to, I don't. Right now, the most important thing to me is Shiloh. I told him I wasn't going to give Shiloh back no matter what, I tell Dad. They're sure staring at me now, him and Ma. You said that to Judd Travers, Dad asked, scooting back in his chair. Only thing left to say, only thing I could think of to do if I hadn't tried already, was going to tell him he could take me to court, and I'd tell the judge how he kicked his dogs, but didn't have to go that far. Yes, he needs help around his place. Ma turns to Dad. You know, I think it's because Shiloh was hurt. I think he figures that dog's never going to be what it was, and that's why he's willing to let it go. Figure he got rid of a lame dog, and the best of the bargain, too. That's what I figure, I say. Liar. And at last Dad begins to smile. So we got ourselves a new member of the family, he tells me. And that's about the nicest thing I heard said in this house in my life. Then Becky and Daryl Lynn wakes up and sad face because they think we got to take Shiloh over to Judd's. I tell them the news, and Daryl Lynn, she starts dancing. Becky joins in, whirling herself around. And then Shiloh's smiling his dog smile, everybody whooping and carrying on. Ma turns off the TV and makes waffles with a big pat of margarine in the center for each one, and hot homemade brown sugar syrup filling the plates. She even makes a waffle for Shiloh. We're going to make that dog sick if we're not careful. Now all we got to worry about is how we can afford to feed him as well as ourselves, Dad says finally. But there's food for the body and food for the spirit, and Shiloh sure enough feeds our spirit. We about pet Shiloh to death. Every time he turns around, someone's got a hand on him somewheres. I take him out for his first gentle run since he got hurt. And once up on the hill, him running free, the good feeling inside me grows bigger and bigger, and I have to let it out. I hunch up my shoulders and go, "Meow!" Shiloh jumps and looks at me. "Meow!" I go again, out of joy and jubilation, the way they do in church. And suddenly Shiloh joins in with a bark. A pitiful kind of bark, like he's got to be taught how. But it's a happy bark, and he's learning. Only bit of sadness left in me is for the deer, wondering too about whose business it is when someone breaks the law. Wonder if Dad wouldn't never tell on Judd no matter what he done. Bet he would. There's got to be times when what one person does is everybody's business. Monday afternoon at 3 o'clock, I'm waiting on Judd's porch when he pulls up. All his dogs chained out the side of the house, and they get to barking like crazy. I don't try to get near him, because a chained dog can be mean. I've already restacked Judd's woodpile, but he wants me to do it again. Put the big pieces here, the little ones there. He's looking mean and grumpy, like maybe he's disgusted with himself for letting me have that dog so easy. When I finish the woodpile, Judd hands me the hoe. You see that garden? I nod. You see that corn? I want the dirt chopped up so fine I could sift it through my fingers, he tells me. Now I see what he's getting at. He's going to make it so that there's no way I can please him. I'll put in my 20 hours and he'll tell me my work wasn't no good. He wants his dog back. I hoe till I got blisters on both hands, sweat pouring down my back. Wish I could do my work in the early morning before the sun's so fierce, but I don't complain. I take off my t-shirt, finally wrap it around my head to keep the sweat off my eyes, and I keep on. Shoulders so red I know they'll hurt worse than anything the next morning, and they do. Next afternoon, Judd sets me to scrubbing down the sides of his trailer and his porch, shining up the windows, raking the yard. He sits on a folding chair in the shade, drinking a cold beer. He don't offer me nothing, even water. I hate him more than the devil. My mouth's so dry it feels like fur. Third day, though, he puts out a quart jar of water for me when I go to pick his beans. I bend over them rows so long, dropping the beans into a bucket, I think I'm going to be bent for life. When I'm through, Judd sort of motions me to the porch, like I can sit there if I want while I drink my water. I almost fall into that porch, glad to be in the shade. Looks like you got yourself some blisters, he says. I'm okay, I tell him, and take another long drink. How's Shiloh, he asks. First time he's called the dog by that name. Wait a minute here. We got a change going on in Shiloh here? He's doing fine. He's still got a limp, but he eats good. Judd lifts his beer to his lips. Would have been a good hunting dog if I had just have kept him home, he says. The other dogs never run off. I think on that a while. Well, I say finally, each one is different. That's the truth. Kick one and he just goes under the porch for an hour. Kick another, he goes off and don't come back. I'm trying my best to think what to say to that. Like, how come he has to kick him at all? Then I figure nobody likes to be preached at, no matter how much he needs it. Least of all Judge Travers, who is 30 years old if he's a day. Some dogs, it just makes them mean when you kick them, I say finally. Other dogs, it makes them scared. Shiloh got scared. Never beat my dogs with a stick, Judge goes on. Never did that in my life. I don't say anything right away. Finally, though, I ask, how are your dogs doing? Raring to go out rabbit hunting, Judge says. We look over at his 3 dogs, all pulling at their chains and snarling at each other. That biggest dog now, Judd goes on, he's the loudest squaller I got. I can tell from all his racket whether he's following a fresh track or an old one. If he's running a ditch, swimming, or treat a coon. That's pretty good, I say. Littlest one, he's nothing but a trashy dog. He'll run down most anything except what I'm after. Hope the others will learn him something. And the middle dog, well, she gives a lot of mouth too, even barks at dead trees. The dogs were fighting now, and Judd throws his Pabst can at him. Y'all shut up, he yells. Hush up. The can hits the biggest dog, and they all scatter. Don't much like being chained, Judd says. I guess nobody would, I tell him. I put in 10 hours that week, meaning I make up 20 of the dollars I owe him. Got 1 more week to go. When I leave of an afternoon for Judge, Shiloh goes with me just so far. Then he gets to whining and turns back. I'm glad he won't go on with me. I don't want him anywhere near Judd Travers. Monday of the 2nd week, it seems like Judd's out to break my back or my spirit or both. This time he's got me splitting wood. I got to roll a big old piece of locust wood over to the stump in his side yard, drive a wedge in it, then hit the wedge with a sledgehammer again and again till the wood falls apart in pieces to fit his wood stove. Then another log and another. I can hardly get the sledgehammer up over my head. And when I bring it down, my arms are so wobbly, my aim ain't true. Almost dropped the hammer. This ain't a job for me, and if Dad saw what Judd was making me do, he'd tell him it wasn't safe. But Judd's out to teach me a lesson, and I'm out to teach him one. So I keep at it. I know it takes me twice as long as Judd to split that wood, but I don't stop. All the while, Judd sits in his porch drinking his beer, watching me sweat. Sure does his heart good, I can tell. So Judd's having fun watching Marty do all this work he's making him do. All right, everybody pay close attention here. This is big. It's about to get scary, all right? You think you're going to get my dog just because you got some handwritten on a piece of paper? Judd laughs and drinks some more. Why, that paper's not good for anything but to blow your nose on. Didn't have a witness. I look at Judd. What do you mean? You don't even know what's legal and what's not, do you? Well, you show a judge a paper without a witness's signature, he'll laugh you right out of the courthouse. Got to have somebody sign that he saw you strike the bargain, Judd laughs. And nobody here but my dogs. So what he's saying is when 2 people make a deal, there needs to be a 3rd person there to say, I saw them make the deal. And then they sign their name. So that way, if someone backs out, that 3rd person can say, no, I saw them make the deal. So Judd's saying there was no witness. So I feel sick inside, like I could maybe throw up. Can't think of what to do or say, so I just lift the sledgehammer again, go on splitting the wood. Judd laughs even harder. What are you, boy, some kind of fool? And when I don't answer, he says, What you breaking your back for? I want that dog, I tell him, and raise the sledgehammer again. That night, I'm sitting out on the porch with Ma and Dad, Shiloh in my lap. I check it out. What's a witness, I say? Somebody who knows the Lord Jesus and don't mind telling about it, says Ma. No, the other kind. Somebody who sees something happen and signs that it's true, Dad says. What you got in mind now, Marty? You make a bargain with somebody, you got to have a witness. I asked, not answering. Let me read that again. You make a bargain with somebody, you got to have a witness? I ask, not answering. If you want it done right and legal, I suppose you do. I can't bear to have Dad know I was so stupid I made an agreement with Judd Travers without a witness. What you thinking on, Dad asks again, hunching up his shoulders while Ma rubs his back. Just thinking how you sell something is all, land and stuff. Liar! Liar, liar, liar. How many pairs of pants would he have gone through, all of them catching on fire in this book?
Like a
I
million.
feel like, yeah.
We could have a bonfire and make s'mores with all the pants that would be burning. Dad looks at me quick. You're not trying to sell off some of my land for that dog, are you? That's funny. No, I tell him. Glad I got him off track, but I sure am worried. Every trace of that deer's gone now. Don't know what Judd done with the meat. Rented him a meat locker somewhere maybe, but there's no bones around, no hide. I report him now. I can't prove a thing. Next day, Judd Travers calls me dumb, sees me waiting for him on his steps, and says I must have a head as thick as a coconut. Didn't he already tell me that the paper wasn't worth nothing? I just look straight through him. You and me made a bargain, I say, and I aim to keep my part of it. What you want me to do today? Judd just points to the sledgehammer again and doubles over laughing, like it's the biggest joke he ever played on somebody in his life. I can feel the sweat trickle down my back, and I ain't even started yet. 4 o'clock comes, and I finally finished all that wood, but Judd pretends he's asleep. Got his head laid back, mouth half open. But I know it's just another way he's got to trick me. Wants me to sneak on home, and then he'll say I never kept to my part of the bargain. So I go on in his shed, put the sledgehammer back, take out the sickle, and go tackle the weeds down by his mailbox. I work on them weeds a whole hour, and when 5 o'clock comes, I start back toward the shed. I see him watching me. I walk over. Sickle's getting dull, Judd. You got a whetstone around? I could sharpen it for you. He studies me a good long while in the shed, he says. I go get it and sit on a stump, running the whetstone over the blade. Past 5 o'clock, says Judd. I know, I say. I ain't going to pay you 1 cent more, he says. It's okay, I tell him. Never saw a look on a man's face like I see on his. Pure puzzlement is what it is. The thing I decide on when I head for Judd's again the next day is that I got no choice. All I can do is stick to my side of the deal and see what happens. All in the world I can do. If I quit now, he'll come for Shiloh, and we're right back where we started. I don't want to make him mad. No use having a winner and a loser, or the bad feelings would just go on. I don't want to have to worry about Shiloh when he's running loose and I'm in school. I don't want to feel that Judd's so sore at me, he'll think up any excuse at all to run his truck over my dog. Only sign in this world we're making progress is the water Judd puts out for me. This day it even has ice in it, and Judd don't say one more word about a witness. In fact, when I'm through working and sit down on the porch to finish the water, Judd talks a little more than usual. Only bond we got between us is dogs, but at least that's something. I decide to say something nice to Judd. Tell him how good looking his dogs are. Giving a compliment to Judd Travers is like filling a balloon with air. You can actually see his chest swell up. 40, 30, and 45, he says, when I tell about his dogs. Those are their names now? What I paid for him, he says. If they had a little more meat on their bones, I figured they'd be the best looking hounds in Tyler County, I tell him. Judd sits there, turning his beer around in his hands and says, maybe could use a bit more fat. I nurse my water along a little too. When did you first get interested in hunting? I ask him. Your pa take you out when you was little? Judd spits. Didn't know a man could drink beer and chew tobacco at the same time, but Judd does. Once or twice, he says. Only nice thing about my dad I remember. It's the first time in my life I ever felt anything like sorry for Judd Travers. If he weighed it on a postal scale, it would hardly move the needle at all. But I suppose there was a fraction of an ounce of sorry for him somewhere inside me. When I thought on all the things I'd done with my own dad and how Judd could only remember hunting, well, that was pretty pitiful for a lifetime. Thursday, when I get there, Judd's meanness has got the best of him again, but because I can see he's running out of work for me to do, just giving me work to make me sweat. Dig a ditch to dump his garbage in, he says. Hoe that cornfield again. Scrub that porch. Weed that bean patch. But close on to 5 o'clock, he seems to realize that I'm only going to be there one more time. I'd worked real hard that day, did anything he asked, and done it better than he asked me to. Well, one more day, Judd says, when I sit down at last with my water and him with his beer. What you gonna do with that dog once he's yours? Just play, I tell him. Love him. We sit there side by side while the clouds change places, puff out, the wind blowing them this way and that. I'm wondering how things would have turned out if it hadn't been for that deer. If I just knocked on Judd's front door 2 weeks ago and told him I wasn't giving Shiloh up, what would have happened then? To tell the truth, I think Ma's right. Judd would have sold him to me by and by because of Shiloh's limp. Judd's the kind that don't like, whoops, what? Let me make sure I got the right page, I'm sorry. Judd's the kind that don't like that in a dog. Same as he don't want a dent or a scratch of any kind on his pickup truck. He makes him look bad, he thinks. His truck's got to be perfect to make up for all the ways Judd's not. The last day I work for Judd, he inspects every job I do, finds fault with the least little thing, keeps pestering me, making me hang around, do my work over. When it's time to go, I say, well, I guess that's it then. Okay, we got a few minutes before recess. We might go past recess time, so I might let you go a little late for recess, but I'll extend recess, all right? So you'll still get your full recess, but we'll stay here till the book's done. Well, I guess that's it then. Judd don't answer, just stands in the doorway of his trailer looking at me. And then I get the feeling he's going to tell me I can take that paper he signed and use it for kindling. Tell me I can call the game warden if I want. There's not a trace of that deer left. The 2 weeks of work I put in for him was just long enough for rain to wash away the blood, for the field grass to spring back up again where the deer was shot. He still don't say anything though, so I start off for home, chest tight. Just a minute, says Judd. I stop. He goes back inside the trailer, me waiting there in the yard. What am I going to do? What am I going to say? He tries that. What am I going to do? And then Judd's back in the doorway again, and he's got something in his hand. Comes down the steps halfway. Here, he says, and it's a dog's collar. An old collar, but better than the one Shiloh's got now. Might be a little big, but he'll grow into it. I look at Judd and take the collar. I don't know how we done it, but somehow we learned to get along. Thanks a lot, I tell him. You got yourself a dog, he says, and goes inside and don't even look back. There you go. Judd kept his word, people. I get home that evening, and Ma's baked a chocolate layer cake to celebrate, or real cake, too, not no Betty Crocker. After dinner, Ma and Dad on the porch. The four of us rolls around on the grass together. Darylyn, Becky, Shiloh, and me. Becky tries to give Shiloh her butterfly kiss, but he don't hold still long enough to feel her eyelashes bad against him. Just got a lick everywhere on her face. And long after Becky and Darylyn goes inside, I lay out there on my back in the grass, not caring about the dew. Shiloh against me crosswise, his paws on my chest. I look at the dark closing in. Sky getting more and more purple, and I'm thinking how nothing is as simple as you guess. You got that right. Nothing is as simple as you guess. Not right or wrong. Not Judd Travers. Not even me or this dog I got here. But the good part is I saved Shiloh and opened my eyes some. Now that ain't bad for 11. That is Shiloh.
That's the end.
That was the whole book.
Second book.
Yep.
Wait,
So
read the other book. Bye.
So I think, you know what? The author, Phyllis Reynolds Naylor, sums it up really well in the end. Look at this. He says that nothing in life is as simple as you guess. Not right or wrong. Not Judd Travers. Not even me or this dog. Right or wrong, it's not that simple, right? Marty's been lying all the time. Well, why has he been lying? He's trying to do something good. Judd's not so simple. He's mean and he's not nice, but he has had a terrible life as a little kid, right? So there's all kinds of other things to understand about people.
My mom's had a terrible life when she was a kid, but she's nice. She's not like Judd Trevor's.
Great. What else,
I don't
Daniel?
wanna-
Oh, I was gonna say, so Judd changed.
Well, maybe a little bit, right? Let me show you something. I told you this ain't near the end because here, hang on.
Hey Christian, look, that's a picture of Marty. You should be like,
2 more books, guys. There's 2 more books.
maybe it'll tell the end, right?
We will read it
Alright.
another day.
Shiloh
You have
season.
to go to recess in 1 minute.
We got Shiloh season and we got saving Shiloh. So
Oh, that's how Shiloh looks like.
I will tell you this. The trouble with Judd is not over.
Wait, is that the same Shiloh as the book that we just read down?
It's a different printing. But
But it still has the same characters, right?
well, yeah. So here, let me read the back of this here. Marty gets to keep Shiloh. He wasn't able to rescue all the dogs that Judd Travers mistreated, but at least Shiloh is safe,
I think
right?
the
Shush.
book.
Daniel, quiet.
Be quiet.
Not necessarily, it turns out. Now that it's hunting season, Judd has started drinking again and hunting on the outskirts of Marty's family's property. What if Judd tries to take back Shiloh? What if one of Marty's sisters gets in the way of one of Judd's shotgun? It seems only a matter of time before something goes very wrong. The thing is, Marty knows a secret about Judd that no one else does. And if anything terrible happens, he will never be able to forgive himself for keeping quiet. Is it time for Marty to speak up? And can he find the courage to do so before something he loves gets hurt? So, trouble's not over yet. In this book, Judd becomes a terrible drunk. That's really what happens. So, and a person who's drinking because they're upset, mix that with hunting and guns. Oh, that's a terrible mix. That's so dangerous. So,
Yes, that dude can become a thriller man. He can be like Jason.
What we'll do is
in that movie.
we'll talk a little bit more about this book tomorrow and probably start this book Friday. We'll see. So, but right now, okay, it's 3:01. So recess goes to 3:26. All right.
Okay.
Sound good? Okay.
Yeah.
Bye.